Hi guys, in this video we're going to be talking about the case expressions in SQL. So the case expressions in SQL Server are basically, they return a single scalar value, and they can be actually used in a lot of ways. They can be used in a select column list. You can have it in a where or having clauses. You can actually use it in the order by clause. So there are a number of reasons why you can actually use the case expressions. So case expressions basically are um, you can actually apply a conditional logic to determine the return value on case expressions. Case expressions are basically has two forms in SQL Server. The first form is a simple case expression, and then we have another form which is a surged case expression. Now we're gonna have some hands-on on both of the expressions. Now we basically have a table here, which is a production.product table. So that's basically the table in AdventureWorks 2012 database. So we're just gonna go ahead and execute this query. We're just gonna select star from the production.product table. So we have a bunch of different attributes here. We have the product ID, the name of the table, then we have a couple of other attributes as well. What we're basically interested in is basically the weight and the weight unit measure code. As you can actually see in this product table and the production.product table in the production schema, is that in the weight unit measure code we have a range of different values. You can see there's a couple of null here, and then we have G here, and then we also have LB as well. So in order to find out what kind of values we've got, just to understand what we have, what the range of the values are for understanding, I'm just gonna go ahead and have a distinct query, which what I'm gonna do is basically I'm gonna select the distinct measure unit weight unit measure code from the production.product table. So what it's gonna give me is basically the list of the values it's got, and the unique list of the values. So we've got three kind of unit measures. The first one is null, when it actually doesn't have one. The second one is a gram, and the third one is a pound. So what I'm gonna do is basically I'm gonna rewrite the query, the first query, and I'm actually interested in the product ID of the product table. I'm interested in the name of the table. I'm also interested in the weight of the table, and I'm also interested in the weight unit measure code of the table. Now in a traditional method, I would actually write a from keyword after this, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to actually introduce a case expression. And what I'm basically interested in is I'm interested in an additional column, which is going to be a case expression. And what I'm going to do basically is this column is going to give me a value basically based on some conditional logic. So what basically I'm going to do is I'm going to have a keyword which is basically case. It starts with a case keyword, and then whatever attribute I'm interested in, I'm gonna write that attribute down here. So I'm gonna say weight unit measure code. That's the one I'm interested in. So I'm gonna say that's the one. And what I'm gonna do is first case is I'm gonna say when it is equivalent to the gram. So I'm just including the quotes here because it's actually a character. It's not an integer. If it would be an integer, I wouldn't have included the quotes. So when it's actually G, I'm gonna say then it's in gram. When it's actually LB, then I'm gonna say it's in pound. And if it's none of these, so I'm gonna say it's an unknown weight. Alright, and then I'm gonna end the case expression with the keyword end. So this actually marks the end of the case expression. And then if I want, I can actually specify, specify the case expression with an alias as well. So that additional column that I'm gonna be getting to check if it's actually, which is basically gonna tell me if it's a gram or a pound. I can actually name that column with an alias as well. So what I'm gonna say is basically, let me say it's actually weight unit description. All right. So basically, this would be the name of that additional column, and then I'm gonna just go ahead and write down from and specify the table for the query. So I'm gonna say production dot product table. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run this query now. So just press the execute button. Just press F5 actually. So now we can see that I have the product ID of the table. I have the name of the product, which I actually selected. Then we have the weight as well. Then we have, let's actually just I'm just gonna put the the square bracket, sorry, so that it doesn't turn blue. I'm gonna just execute it again. Yep. So now we can see that these are the columns I was interested in. That the product ID of the table, then the name of the product, then the weight of the product, and then there's a weight unit measure code, the code of the unit measure, and then we have the additional column here as well, which was the weight unit description. So if it's a null value, it's actually showing a result as an unknown. And if you scroll down here, and if you actually see that it's a gram, it's a G, it will tell us that it's a gram. If it's an LB, it will tell us that it's a pound. So basically, that was a case expression. That was a simple case expression. And now I'm gonna talk about the searched case expression as well. Now, the search form of the case expression is actually based on a predicate logic. It's actually the search form of the case expression is actually more flexible as well, because what it actually does is, instead of actually comparing an input expression to a multiple expressions, what it actually does is it actually evaluates the first predicate to true to determine when expression is returned. And basically, it's actually based on a different sets of predicates, on a predicate logic. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to give an example as well, in order to better understand what basically a search expression is all about and what's basically the predicate logic. So I'm going to just change it a little bit, the query to a little bit. And what I'm going to do is basically, I'm going to keep the query as is, but I'm going to say select product ID name. And then instead of actually having the case of the weight unit measure code in the where clause, in the case clause, in the case expression, I'm going to put the case, I'm going to put the weight in the case expression. So I'm going to actually say, I'm interested in the weight in the case expression. And I'm going to basically have, let's just, for better understanding, I'm just going to copy it here and just paste it here, paste it over there, so that it's actually at the end. and then we have the additional column at the end as well. All right, so let's go ahead. And now what I'm gonna do is basically, and I just forgot to put the comma here. And now what I'm gonna do basically is I'm gonna say when basically the weight is well, actually I'm not gonna say weight here because I'm gonna specify the weight here, and I'm gonna say when the weight is less than 10, then it's light. Well, I'm gonna say, and then this is basically a predicate logic. So I have the first predicate logic. It's gonna determine what's basically it's gonna do. It's gonna determine if it's true, then it's gonna say light, and otherwise it's gonna go to the second predicate logic, which is basically that it says weight is greater than 10. And then it's heavy. Otherwise it's gonna say unknown. And this is gonna end. I'm gonna just this is gonna end the expression here. The case expression is just gonna end here. And if I need, and if I want, actually I can have the alias associated with that one as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say this would be the weight description from production.product table, and I'm just gonna go ahead and execute this query. So here we go. So if actually it is, if the predicate logic is not coming in the first clause or the second clause, it's gonna say unknown. So the unknown is here when the weight is not, when the weight is null. It's obviously is going to unknown, so it's going to display unknown here. If it's actually less than 10, and we can see here that it is 2.24, which is less than 10, so it's actually displaying light. And if it's going to be greater than 10, which we can see up, which we can see down here somewhere, over here, for example, it's 20.13, which is basically heavy according to this the logic that we defined here. So that was basically the case expressions in SQL Server, the simple and the search case expressions. I hope you understand the concept and hope you like the video. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day.